Okay, so I haven't done backtesting properly actually on this. I just ran a genetic backtest once and got a bunch of results, and I just chose the best one. And then I chose the closest number to number, or really the closest. So if it's like 75, I made it 80, and if it's like 9, I made it 8. I just made them all close to 8 from the best one that I found. And the one that I used, or the function that I used, is the balance max. So I chose balance max, and that's why you saw like the huge rise. There's a bunch of different functions. We won't be using those. What I want to do is I want to really see what happens if we go to that time period where there was a huge jump in price. I believe it's October, around October, where there was a big jump in price. I want to push the percentage up really high just because I want to see like what happens, like how much can it hit. And this won't be the actual backtest that I deploy, or the actual, not backtest, the actual me trying to get a parameter set that works. Yeah, so that died, that just didn't work. I'm gonna check visual. This is gonna just be because I want to see, I want to kind of stress test, find out what goes right and what goes wrong. I think what's happening here is there was just no entries. So I may be off on the time, but what we could do is check the journal to find out if that is the case. So what do we see during this stress backtest? No money, failed market. Okay, so we're entering with size that is way too big. Maybe because we're on fixed. Let's see, we'll go to the inputs now before we give up on it. And so I do have it set to compound. I'm going to reduce this number. So during this experimentation, that's kind of how you work. I'm going to go with 3, and let's run the same test. Let's see, does it survive this time or not? Nope, still not enough money. So failed market by 3. It's choosing lot size 3, which is just way too much. I'll go to settings. I have it set to 10,000. Now, realistically, I'm not going to be putting 10,000 if I were to be putting money into this. So I'm just going to go with 1,000, which is more in line with how much money I would actually put. And I have the same challenge. Now it's even, the challenge is exacerbated, you could say, because now this is definitely way too big. So I'm going to try 0.03 out of 1,000. And what I suspect is going on is the decimal, GPT may have put the decimal wrong, because 0.03% of 1,000, that lot size being risked, just couldn't be that big, right? It has to be a small number. But either way, still just playing around with this EA and discovering what happens. So I'll click start. I just clicked on start. Okay, so now we're getting somewhere, because okay, I paused it in time because I see entries happening, and I see no failed orders. So now the size is, what is the size? 0.02. Okay, that makes sense. So that goes with what we're trying to do. And we have a bunch of entries already. Buy, you got SL, these two stop losses, and it looks like it already won some trades and then it re-entered. Yeah, so it's doing good. All right, we'll keep going. And because I have it set to test mode, the UI thing over here isn't showing, which is good. Now what I'm going to do is go over to the graph, or the chart, I'll run it on super fast mode just because, like I said, I want to see, is this the time period where we had that giant. It may or may not be. Let's see. No, it isn't, but it's okay. We can use it. Okay. So it is trendy markets. I don't like how this trend wasn't captured. And I see that the moving average over here almost touched. It didn't. Then over here, again, almost touched, but it didn't. So those would have been two entries had either the medium moving average been a bit bigger or the fast moving average been a bit smaller. And I also see that this is around October 21. So what I want to do now is kind of deliberately overfit. So you don't want to just overfit and then think, okay, now that I have the ideal parameter set. So you do this and then you think, okay, this is definitely going to work in the future. No, but you do want to optimize for that time period because that's the market regime that you're trying to win at. Okay, and then you want to see how does this new parameter set, these changes that we make, affect also not just the regime that we want, but the regime that we don't want. So we'll go right back in, and before I make the changes to make those entries, kind of force them into play, is let's look over here and see that there's other things that happen. So you get some entries here, bad entries over here, and then gets hit, you get taken out. Okay, so I'll make this adjustment and I'll keep in the back of my head that maybe we should increase the neutral range. And you know what that is because we went over it in the last part. Okay, first thing I'm going to do in this optimization set or optimization process, I'll go to either this one or this one. Let's try, how about this? How about I'll make this, I'll move this a bit and this. So I'll make this one a little bit slower. We'll go with 35. And I'll make this one a little bit slower as well. We'll go with 80. 8. Okay, we'll start and let's see how that works. Let's see how that behaves. So we still get those initial wins that take place. Now I'm waiting for October, what is this, 21, right? So I'm just checking here October 16. I want to see exactly what happens. Did we successfully force those entries? Oh. So no. Actually, it got bigger. I may have set the parameters wrong. All right, I'm going to change the time to just start at October 20th. Okay, just so we do better on time. Go to October 20. Keep visual enabled. Go to the inputs and we'll make this smaller. I think I was supposed to make it smaller, 55. Okay. So it entered over here, but didn't enter over here because it was already in a trade that it entered over here. So it did kind of work. Let's see how this plays out. Okay, so it enters again. Nice, you do capture some wins. You get this win. Oh, that's a loss. You lost over here. So it does enter way more frequently. Now, this kind of goes with what I was saying earlier, which is you don't enter when the slope is a bit too not gnarly enough, right? You don't want the slope to be. So let's increase the neutral range. So we'll go over to neutral range and let's choose go with 6. Let's see how this plays out. It'll slow down entries. Actually, I forgot to enable the test mode because I want to see the numbers, and that'll probably help me choose a better number instead of arbitrarily choosing, yeah, 37. That's a much bigger number. So we may need to increase. That is a pretty big slope over here. Oh wait, we're talking about this slope here, yeah, the slow one. Okay, and you can see it's a lot slower. Yeah, way slower. So I'm gonna go back to not test mode pretty soon, but I just want to see the numbers that it reaches. So I'm noticing already that 4 and 5, like those numbers are just way too small. You probably want a much bigger number for the neutral range, even though it is going to decrease the amount of entries. It'll probably save us from these really bad entries like this one. This was a sell, but price looks like it's going up. Okay, so 16, 15. All right, let's try a much bigger number. Let's try. We'll do 16. Okay. Neutral range 16. All right, we'll start the backtest. Okay, so I anticipate for there to be, hold on, let me remove test mode so we can get some speed. All right, enable test mode. So I anticipate better entries and a lot less entries. Okay, so we got one loss. Got 2 wins. That's a bad entry still. Let's check the graph. Let's see what the graph looks like. Did we end up losing? No, so overall we're still in profit. All right, last thing I want to do, and all this, by the way, is just to show you like how to backtest, how to interpret what's going on and adjust the parameters and fine tune and find just kind of the rough numbers that you want to use before you do a genetic backtest. Because if you just choose numbers like you make the fast moving average really big, like 200 period, and then you make the slow one really small, like I don't know, 5, it's just not gonna behave the way that it's supposed to, and then you're just choosing random numbers. Maybe you get lucky in some sort of a in sample period, but it doesn't really go with the idea. Okay, so these are the sorts of changes that you want to make to the parameters as you backtest and find those numbers that you then use for the genetic backtest, and you run the entire genetic backtest. And if you don't know what that is, I have a bunch of other videos about it. I think I have 2 actually. So yeah, just look up genetic backtest because that's really how you do a big test and find the optimal parameter set. Okay, so yeah, this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to see what the performance is like on a bit more of a sample period. Okay, so right off the bat, I'm noticing that there are many missed entries. So I don't like how didn't enter over here. That being said, this is kind of a choppy market, kind of, but still should be some entries, right? Way too many missed opportunities, and then that one time that it entered, it lost. So this would have been an entry, but the slope probably wasn't Actually, I think we just need way more crossovers. We'll keep the slope the same way. One little change before we end the video. I want to see what happens if we make these actually really close, and then that should boost the amount of entries that take place while still having a relatively big neutral range, making it so that you only enter on trends, but you do get a bunch of entries. Okay, so we avoided this entire kind of choppiness, and as soon as you got that big move up, a crossover happened on the pullback. This is nice. I like how that worked out. That played out very nicely. Let's see if we actually end up profitable. No. All right, that was a good entry as well, but it was a bit too late. So now I'm thinking maybe because they were good entries, but the chandelier, the trailing, was too aggressive. Or not aggressive enough if you're trying to go for more of a scalper kind of a situation. Let's try one actually the last thing, which is to set it up so that it is more in line with kind of scalping. So as soon as that pullback happens, very aggressive trailing. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to make the chandeliering much smaller. So meanwhile, let's just let this play out just so we can see how it's performing. Okay, so it gives back a lot of money, and then it really catches those trends. Not bad, but see how there's all of these large peaks over here because the chandeliering is just not aggressive enough. So that's kind of my idea right now where I'm going with this. The chandeliering is the trailing. So let's try making this 11. This it's either going to be a really good idea or it's a really bad idea, and it just cuts off those trades way too early. Okay, so it seems like it's already mitigating some of those losses because it's trailing well enough. But I'm worried that it's going to also mitigate the wins. So I didn't even do that good a job at mitigating those losses. Still kind of the same curve down. And then also these wins haven't really been captured. Well, yeah, actually it is kind of capturing those bigger trend ups. Oh, nice catch up there. All right, let's do even, this technically counts as the same one because I said this is the last one. Let's do the best number for this, which is obviously going to be number 8. Obviously. All right. So here we are with the number 8, giving back money that we make. And yeah, while this plays out, because this actually is going to be the last one, I will say this. So when you do play with this expert advisor, just remember that this is educational purposes, right? This isn't the EA to deploy because you're going to get massively rich because you caught that big trend using this expert advisor, even though it does look very tempting because looking at this simulation data, it's like, oh wow, what if I get in on this? Just be extra careful, be vigilant. Oh look, this dwarfed. This may be the time period. Yeah, be extra careful, be vigilant, really think about this as an educational tool because it is free on buyabigboat.com. You can download it, play with it. It's just an educational tool. Okay, so that's the disclaimer. All right, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you have a sense of how to adjust the parameter settings. And yeah, let me know in the comments what you think about this EA. Has this series been useful? Are you a trend follower? And yeah. All right, good luck.